No one in the Galactic Council Hall noticed the small human ship at first. Their eyes were fixed on the great display of power floating above the capital world. The Varkesh Dominion fleet filled the stars like metal gods. Thousands of ships, ancient and proud, moved in perfect order. For centuries, the Varkesh had ruled the galaxy. They had crushed empires, erased cultures, and rewritten history to place themselves at the center of all things. No one challenged them anymore. The council members sat in silence, fear heavy in the air. They had already lost the war. The Varkesh did not come to negotiate. They came to announce surrender terms. Worlds would burn, species would kneel. That was the way of the galaxy. Then the sensors screamed. At the edge of the system, space twisted. A shape emerged where nothing should have been. It was not elegant. It was not large by Varkesh standards. It looked simple, rough, almost unfinished. A single ship, dark and solid like a slab of night cut into metal. Its name echoed through the human command channel, TBS Resolute. The Varkesh scanners locked on instantly. Laughter rippled through their ranks. One ship against an empire was not bravery. It was suicide. Inside the Resolute, Captain Elias Ward stood still. He was not young, and he was not afraid. His face showed the calm of someone who had already accepted the cost of duty. Around him, human officers worked in silence. No speeches, no prayers. They all knew why they were here. Humanity had watched the Varkesh conquer from a distance. They had learned, they had listened, they had prepared. The Varkesh flagship opened a channel. Its voice was deep and cold, filled with ancient pride. It demanded identification, submission, and silence. The human ship did not answer. Instead, the Resolute moved forward. The council gasped. The Varkesh commanders frowned. The human ship crossed a line no one had crossed before. It passed the invisible boundary that marked Varkesh dominance of the system. That boundary had never been challenged. Until now. Warning shots fired from the Varkesh fleet, bright and beautiful, meant to scare, not destroy. They expected the small ship to turn back or vanish. It did neither. The shots struck the Resolute's shields and faded like sparks in the rain. The human ship did not slow down. For the first time in centuries, the Varkesh felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. Captain Ward raised his hand. "Weapons free," he said, his voice calm and clear. The Resolute fired once. There was no loud explosion, no flash of light. Space itself seemed to bend. A focused wave of force slammed into a Varkesh cruiser. The massive ship cracked, folded, and collapsed inward, torn apart as if grabbed by an invisible fist. In seconds, it was gone. Silence followed, then panic. Varkesh fleets were built to dominate through numbers and fear. They had never faced a weapon like this. Orders clashed, formations broke. Some ships advanced, others pulled back. The Resolute kept moving. It did not chase. It did not rush. It advanced with slow, unstoppable purpose. Each shot destroyed a ship, not damaged, not disabled, erased. The council watched in disbelief. Species who had lost homeworlds to the Varkesh felt something rise in their chests. Hope, long buried, began to breathe again. The Varkesh flagship finally attacked with full force. Beams, missiles, and energy storms filled space. The Resolute vanished behind fire. Then it emerged. Scars marked its hull. Systems burned. But it was still moving, still firing. Inside, alarms rang. Crew members were injured. Power levels dropped. Captain Ward gripped the rail and did not look away. Humanity had not come to survive. They had come to send a message. The Resolute fired again, and the Varkesh flagship shattered. The shockwave rippled through the fleet. Command links failed. Fear spread faster than orders. The great armada that ruled the galaxy began to retreat. The Resolute did not follow. It stopped. Captain Ward opened a channel. Not to the Varkesh, but to the galaxy. "This is humanity," he said. "We were quiet because we were learning. We were patient because we were preparing. The age of unchecked rule is over." The transmission cut. The human ship turned and jumped away, leaving behind wreckage, silence, and a broken legend. In the council hall, no one spoke. They knew this was not the end. It was the beginning of a war no one expected. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Varkesh began to ask a question they had never needed before. What happens when prey learns how to fight back? Far from the council world, alarms echoed through Varkesh command sectors. Ancient leaders argued, blaming each other, searching for meaning in the impossible defeat. Records showed the human ship used technology based on controlled gravity and hardened alloys, designed not for elegance, but survival. Humanity had studied every lost battle in the galaxy and built one answer. Not fleets, not numbers. One hammer. On a distant human outpost, civilians watched the replay in silence. They did not cheer. They understood the cost that would come. The Resolute was damaged, its crew wounded, its future uncertain. But the signal was sent. Humanity would no longer hide at the edge of history. In the dark halls of the Dominion, a final order was given. The Varkesh would hunt Earth. They would erase this threat before others dared to rise. Fleets turned. War plans awakened. Pride twisted into rage. Unseen by both sides, other species listened. They remembered chains. They remembered fire. And for the first time, they began to plan resistance. The galaxy had changed in a single moment, shaped by one human ship that refused to bow. And the war that followed would decide whether fear or defiance would rule the stars. The first strike was over, but its echo would grow, carrying human resolve across systems, until even the ancient stars remembered who truly stood their ground. The Varkesh Dominion did not sleep after the defeat. Across their core worlds, war alarms echoed day and night. Ancient command halls filled with angry voices. The loss of a flagship was not just damage, it was shame. For a species built on dominance, shame was more painful than death. Supreme Commander Kral stood before a massive star map. His armor was old, worn by many wars, but his eyes burned with rage. The humans were supposed to be weak, new, easy to crush. One ship had proven them wrong, and that truth spread fear like a disease. "The humans will be erased," Kral said. "Not later, now." Orders spread through the Dominion. Hundreds of war fleets changed course. Their target was no longer the Council worlds. It was Earth. Far away, the Terran Battleship Resolute drifted through silent space. Its hull was scarred. Fires burned in lower decks. Engineers worked without rest, sealing breaches and saving power. Medics moved between the wounded. No one complained. Captain Elias Ward watched the stars from the bridge. He knew what would come next. The Varkesh would not forgive. They would strike hard and fast. Humanity had won a moment, not the war. "Signal command," Ward said. "Full report." The message traveled through hidden human relays, bouncing across systems. On Earth, leaders gathered in underground chambers. They listened in silence as the battle replayed. They saw the power of the Resolute. They also saw how close it came to destruction. Admiral Renata Cole spoke first. "They're coming for us." No one argued. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades. They had watched alien wars, studied weapons, learned tactics. They knew they could not match the galaxy ship for ship, so they chose a different path. Survive, adapt, strike where it hurts. Across human space, shipyards came alive, not with grand fleets, but with strange designs, heavy armor, deep power cores, weapons built for close combat, ships made to take punishment and keep fighting. Meanwhile, the Varkesh fleets moved like a storm. Thousands of ships advanced, burning through systems that dared to resist. They sent a message to the galaxy. This is what happens when you defy us. Some species surrendered instantly, others hid, but a few remembered the resolute. On a small mining world, leaders watched the sky as Varkesh scouts passed overhead. They did not fire. They waited. Hope was dangerous, but it was alive. The Resolute reached a hidden repair station near the edge of human territory. It was not large or impressive. It was buried inside an asteroid field, invisible to most sensors. As repairs began, Captain Ward met with human command through a secure link. "We slowed them," Ward said. "That's all." "You gave us time," Admiral Cole replied. "That's everything." Human intelligence reports showed the scale of the threat. The Varkesh Armada was massive. Earth could not survive a direct attack. So humanity chose another move. Small human strike groups launched quietly. They did not attack fleets. They targeted supply lines, fuel depots, communication relays. Every strike was fast and brutal. Human ships appeared, hit hard, and vanished. The Varkesh were not used to this kind of war. They expected fear. They expected retreat. Instead, their advance slowed. Confusion spread. Commanders argued over phantom enemies. Supreme Commander Krall slammed his fist into a console when another report arrived. "They run like insects," he growled. "Hunt them." But hunting humans was not easy. Human ships used short jumps, unpredictable paths, and silent approaches. They fought dirty, striking from angles considered dishonorable by Varkesh tradition. That tradition now cost lives. At the same time, the galaxy watched. Stories spread of Varkesh supply ships vanishing, of human raiders standing against cruisers and winning. The legend of invincible rule began to crack. On Earth, civilians followed the war through filtered reports. They knew the truth was worse. Cities prepared shelters. Children were taught emergency drills. Humanity understood survival would demand sacrifice. Captain Ward walked the decks of the Resolute after repairs finished. He spoke to the crew, not with speeches, but with presence. They saw his scars, his tired eyes, his steady hands. That was enough. "We move soon," he told them. "This time, we won't be alone." As if answering him, new signals appeared on long-range scanners. Not human. Not Varkesh. Unknown ships. They held formation at the edge of the system. Smaller. Mixed designs. A coalition. An encrypted message arrived. It was short. "We remember what the Varkesh did to us. We saw what you did to them. We will fight." Captain Ward closed his eyes for a moment. Humanity had not asked for allies, but courage was contagious. The Resolute moved forward to meet them. Across the galaxy, more eyes opened. More chains felt heavier. The idea that the Varkesh could bleed changed everything. Supreme Commander Krall received reports of rising resistance. Minor species refusing orders. Patrols ambushed. Worlds delaying tribute. His anger turned cold. "This ends at Earth," he declared. "Break the humans, and the galaxy will kneel again." The Varkesh Armada regrouped for a final push. Larger than before, deadlier. Built not for display, but destruction. Human sensors detected the movement. The largest invasion force ever assembled was coming. Captain Ward stood on the bridge of the Resolute as stars stretched into jump lines. The war had grown beyond one ship now, beyond one species. The first battle had shattered a legend. The second would decide if that legend died forever. The galaxy held its breath as the Varkesh Armada moved. Never before had so many warships traveled with one purpose. Their formation stretched across light years, dark and heavy, like a shadow meant to erase a star. At its center was Supreme Commander Krall, certain that fear would be restored once Earth burned. But the humans were not waiting in fear. In a quiet region of space, far from Earth, human and allied ships gathered. They did not form a perfect line. Their formation looked scattered. almost weak. Different hull shapes, different sizes, different species. To the Varkesh, it would look like chaos. To humans, it was a trap. Captain Elias Ward stood aboard the Resolute, now fully repaired and upgraded. New armor plates covered old scars. The ship felt heavier, stronger. Around it, smaller human strike ships drifted beside alien vessels that once would never have trusted each other. A final message passed through the fleet. Simple, clear, hold your ground. The Varkesh scouts arrived first. They saw the mixed fleet and reported easy prey. Supreme Commander Kral allowed himself a slow smile. He ordered the main force forward. The first shots came from the Varkesh, bright and powerful. Space lit up as energy beams crossed the void. Several Allied ships were hit. One exploded. Another spun away, broken. The Varkesh believed the battle had already begun to end. Then the humans acted. Human ships surged forward, not to flee, but to close distance. They ignored long-range combat and charged into the heart of the enemy fire. Varkesh commanders shouted in confusion. No species fought this way. Closing distance meant death, but human armor absorbed the punishment. Shields failed, hulls burned, yet the ships kept coming. The Resolute led the charge. At close range, human weapons came alive. Rail cannons tore through Varkesh hulls. Gravity pulses crushed shields from the inside. Human ships rammed when weapons failed, sacrificing themselves to break enemy lines. The battle became chaos. Varkesh formations collapsed as their strength became their weakness. Their numbers blocked their movement. Human and Allied ships slipped between them, striking engines, command nodes, and carriers. Allied species fought with a fury born from long memory. Every destroyed Varkesh ship was revenge for a lost world. Supreme Commander Kral watched in disbelief. This was not war as he knew it. There was no fear in the enemy, only stubborn refusal to die. "Focus fire on the Resolute," he ordered. "Break their symbol." Dozens of ships turned their weapons on the Terran Battleship. Space around the Resolute burned. Systems failed. Decks shook. Crew members were thrown to the floor. Captain Ward was injured, blood running down his face. He stayed on his feet. "Keep moving," he said. The Resolute pushed forward, engines screaming. At point-blank range, it fired everything it had. A massive Varkesh command cruiser shattered. Shockwaves rippled through nearby ships, tearing them apart. The sight broke something in the Varkesh fleet. For the first time, ships began to retreat without orders. Human strike groups pressed harder. They did not chase fleeing ships. They cut deeper, targeting logistics vessels and jump beacons. Escape routes vanished. As the battle raged, more ships arrived. New signals appeared on scanners. More Allied fleets, species that had hidden for generations, now entered the fight. The galaxy was choosing a side. After hours of brutal combat, the Varkesh armada withdrew. Not in order, not with pride. They fled, leaving wreckage and silence behind. The cost was heavy. Many Allied ships were gone. Human losses were severe. Space was filled with debris and drifting escape pods. The Resolute barely functioned. Power was low. Fires burned, but it still stood. Captain Ward looked at the battlefield. Victory did not feel like triumph. It felt like survival. Reports flooded in. The Varkesh were pulling back to regroup near Earth. They had lost too much to continue this fight. But humanity knew the truth. This was not over. Supreme Commander Kral survived. His flagship escaped, damaged but alive. His pride was shattered. But his hatred was stronger than ever. He made a final decision. If the humans would not kneel, the galaxy would burn with them. Deep in Varkesh space, ancient weapons were activated. Devices forbidden even by Dominion law. Weapons meant to kill stars, not ships. Human intelligence picked up fragments of the signal. Analysts went silent as they understood. The war had changed again. Captain Ward received the report and closed his eyes. The enemy was desperate now, and desperate enemies were the most dangerous. He opened a channel to Earth. "Prepare for the worst," he said. "They're coming with everything." The third phase of the war had begun, and the fate of entire systems now hung on what humanity would do next. The warning reached Earth before the Varkesh fleets did. Ancient weapons, star-killing power. The words spread through human command, like ice through veins. Humanity had prepared for invasion, not extinction. Deep beneath Earth's surface, leaders and scientists gathered. Screens showed broken data streams stolen from Varkesh space. The truth was clear enough. The Dominion was willing to destroy entire systems just to erase humanity's defiance. Admiral Renata Cole spoke quietly. "If they fire those weapons near Earth, the planet won't survive." Silence followed. Then one simple question. How do we stop them? Far from Earth, the Resolute limped toward a hidden rally point. Captain Elias Ward was weaker now, his injuries slowing him, but his mind remained sharp. He studied the intelligence reports with his officers. The Varkesh weapons were not mounted on ships. They were massive structures built near unstable stars, designed to trigger stellar collapse. Destroying them would mean entering the heart of Varkesh territory. It was almost impossible. Almost. Human scientists had one advantage. They understood limits. Varkesh technology was powerful but rigid, built on tradition. Humans experimented. They adapted. They broke rules. A risky plan formed. Instead of attacking the weapons directly, humans would overload them, turn the Varkesh power against itself. But someone had to get close enough to deliver the trigger. Everyone knew which ship would be chosen. Captain Ward listened as the plan was explained. He did not interrupt. When it ended, he nodded once. "We'll do it." The Resolute was never meant to return. Across Allied space, messages spread. Humans were not asking for help. They were asking others to hold the line, delay the Varkesh fleets, buy time. And the Allies answered. Fleets formed defensive walls near key systems. Smaller species stood together, knowing they could not win alone, but believing humanity might succeed. The Resolute entered Varkesh territory alone. It moved through dark systems filled with patrols and sensors. Human stealth systems strained to remain hidden. Every second felt borrowed. Inside the ship, the crew prepared in silence. Letters were recorded, messages sent home, no speeches, no promises. They all understood the cost. As the Resolute approached the first star weapon, the scale of it became clear, a massive structure wrapped around a blue giant star, feeding on its energy. One wrong move, and the star would collapse. Varkesh defense platforms activated. Fire filled space. The Resolute took hit after hit. Armor cracked. Systems failed. But it kept moving. Captain Ward stood on the bridge, gripping the console. "Hold course." Human engineers rerouted power manually. Crew members worked through smoke and fire. Fear existed, but it did not control them. At close range, the Resolute launched the overload device. It attached to the weapon's core. "Trigger in 60 seconds, an officer said. There was no time to escape fully. The Resolute turned and burned hard, engines tearing themselves apart. The countdown reached 0. The star weapon exploded inward. The blue giant destabilized, collapsing in on itself before erupting in a controlled nova. The shockwave wiped out every Varkesh installation in the system. The Resolute barely escaped the edge of the blast, thrown into deep space, broken and dark. Across the galaxy, alarms rang in Varkesh command. One weapon was gone. Then another signal vanished. Human strike teams, smaller and faster, had followed behind. They attacked secondary systems, spreading chaos. Supreme Commander Kral roared in fury. His greatest threat was being dismantled by the species he had dismissed. He ordered all remaining star weapons activated at once. Human intelligence caught the command. There was no time left. Earth's skies filled with evacuation ships, shelters sealed. People waited. Then the impossible happened. Varkesh weapon systems began to fail. One by one they overloaded. Some shut down, others destroyed themselves. The design flaw humans had discovered spread like a virus through Varkesh networks. The Dominion's final weapon turned into its greatest mistake. The Varkesh fleets halted in confusion. Their ultimate threat was gone. In the darkness of space, emergency lights flickered aboard the Resolute. Life support barely held. Captain Ward breathed slowly, still alive, though the ship was crippled. He looked at the stars and allowed himself one small smile. Humanity had survived another day. But the war was not finished. With their greatest weapons lost, the Varkesh had only one option left: total war. And they were heading straight for Earth. The loss of the star weapons shook the Varkesh Dominion to its core. Ancient leaders argued in voices filled with rage and fear. Their greatest symbol of final power was gone, destroyed by human defiance and human thought. The galaxy watched as the Dominion made its last choice. They would take Earth by force. Every remaining Varkesh warship was recalled. Borders were stripped bare. Defensive worlds were abandoned. Nothing mattered now except crushing humanity in one decisive blow. If Earth fell, resistance everywhere would collapse. Human long-range sensors saw the armada forming. It was smaller than before, but still terrifying. Thousands of ships hardened by war, driven by revenge. On Earth, there was no panic, only focus. Humanity had no illusions left. This battle would decide everything. Cities finished evacuations. Orbital defenses powered up. Every ship that could fly took position, from massive warships to old cargo vessels fitted with weapons. Admiral Renata Cole addressed the fleet. Her message was short. "This is our home. We do not run from it." Across Allied space, leaders faced their own choice. Some worlds sealed their borders, afraid. Others remembered the human ship that stood alone. They jumped in. Allied fleets emerged around Earth, filling the sky with colors and shapes never meant to fly together. Old enemies now shared targeting data. Old grudges were set aside. Humanity was no longer alone. The Varkesh arrived soon after. The sky above Earth darkened as their ships exited hyperspace. The sight stole breath from every watcher. This was the force that had ruled the galaxy for ages. The first shots were fired without warning. Space turned into fire. Human orbital platforms unleashed everything they had. Rail fire, missiles, energy beams tore into the advancing fleets. The Varkesh answered with overwhelming force. Platforms shattered, ships vanished in bursts of light. The battle was chaos. Fighters swarmed between capital ships. Boarding pods slammed into hulls. Human marines fought inside alien corridors, using close combat where Varkesh size and strength mattered less than human speed and teamwork. The Allies fought with desperate courage. They knew retreat meant extinction. From deep space, a damaged signal appeared on human scanners. The Resolute. Against all odds, it was moving again. Captain Elias Ward was barely standing. The ship was held together by emergency systems and stubborn will, but its weapons still worked. The Resolute entered the battle like a wounded beast. Its arrival cut through despair. Human ships rallied around it. Allied fleets adjusted formation. The symbol still lived. Supreme Commander Kral saw it and felt something close to fear. "Destroy it," he ordered. "Now!" Varkesh ships broke formation to hunt the Resolute. This was the mistake humanity waited for. Human command triggered the final defense plan. Earth's gravity weapons activated. Hidden platforms around the planet released controlled gravity wells. Varkesh ships, built for rigid formation warfare, were pulled off course. Collisions followed. Shields failed. Order vanished. The Resolute struck at the center, firing at Kral's flagship. The two ships exchanged fire at close range. The Resolute took massive damage. Crew members died at their stations. Systems failed one by one. Captain Ward stayed on the bridge. A final shot from the Resolute tore through the Varkesh flagship's core. Explosions rippled through it. The ship broke apart. Supreme Commander Krall was gone. The sight broke the Dominion fleet. Some ships fled. Others surrendered. Many were destroyed as Allied fleets pressed the advantage. Earth still burned, but it stood. As the last shots faded, silence returned to orbit. Wreckage drifted among the stars. Survivors waited, unsure if the war was truly over. On the bridge of the Resolute, emergency lights flickered. Captain Ward collapsed into his chair, breathing shallowly. The ship was dying, but Earth was safe. And humanity had one final choice to make. What would they do with a defeated enemy? The answer would shape the galaxy forever. Silence spread across Earth's orbit after the battle. The stars were no longer filled with fire, only with wreckage and drifting ships. For the first time in a long while, the galaxy was quiet. Human command did not celebrate. They counted losses. Too many names. Too many empty seats. But Earth still turned below them, blue and alive. That mattered. The Varkesh fleet was broken. Without Supreme Commander Krall, their ships drifted without clear orders. Some powered down weapons, others transmitted surrender codes. A few tried to escape only to be stopped by Allied patrols. The war was over. The question now was, what came next? On Earth, a council was formed. Not just humans, but representatives from allied species. Many of them still carried fear in their eyes. The Varkesh had ruled their lives for generations. Trust did not come easily. Some demanded revenge. They wanted the Dominion erased, its worlds burned the way theirs had been. The pain was real. The anger was justified. Others warned against it. Destroying the Varkesh would not heal the galaxy. It would only replace one age of fear with another. Admiral Renata Cole listened to every voice. Then she spoke. "We did not fight to become what they were." Her words spread through the room. Humanity had learned something in the war. Power without restraint always returned as suffering. A message was sent to the remaining Varkesh leadership. Surrender fully, disarm, stand trial before a galactic council, or face isolation forever. For the first time in their history, the Varkesh had no answer ready. Their fleets were gone, their weapons destroyed, their myths shattered. Resistance would mean slow extinction. They accepted. Across the galaxy, Varkesh ships powered down. Military control systems were handed over. Prison camps were opened. Enslaved species were freed. It was not forgiveness. It was accountability. Meanwhile, far from the councils and negotiations, the Terran Battleship Resolute drifted in orbit above Earth. Repair crews worked carefully around its broken hull. Inside the medical bay, Captain Elias Ward lay unconscious. Doctors were unsure if he would wake. Days passed. Then, quietly, he did. Ward opened his eyes to soft light and steady beeping. His body felt heavy, old, tired in a way that went deeper than wounds. A doctor noticed the movement and smiled. "You're back," she said. Ward tried to speak. His voice was weak, but clear. "Did we hold?" "Yes," she answered. "Earth is safe." That was enough. News of his survival spread quickly. He did not want attention, but the galaxy needed symbols. To many, he was not just a captain. He was proof that standing firm mattered. When Ward was strong enough, he stood once more on the bridge of the Resolute. The ship would never fly into battle again. Its systems were too damaged. But it remained in orbit as a reminder, a scar that still stood. The Galactic Council was rebuilt, this time without fear at its center. No single species ruled. Power was shared, watched, and limited. Laws were written not just to prevent war, but to stop domination before it began. Humanity did not take control. They refused it. Instead, they helped design defenses, shared technology carefully, and focused on one promise: never again. Former Varkesh worlds were placed under protection. Their people were not erased. They were forced to face the truth of what their empire had done. Some resisted, others changed. Healing would take generations, but it had begun. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. Cities were rebuilt. Children played under open skies. The war became history, then story, then legend. One story was told more than any other. It was not about fleets or numbers. It was about one ship, a simple, heavy, stubborn battleship that refused to bow. They ruled the galaxy, the story always ended, until humanity stood their ground. Captain Ward retired quietly. He never sought power. He lived long enough to see new stars mapped, new alliances formed, and old wounds begin to close. Sometimes he would look up at the night sky and smile. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had changed it. And far beyond known space, the stars burned on, watching a new age begin.